Hello, Tito. Jeff Fidoff here with the Hoops on Lane podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're not going to talk about the women's basketball team tonight. They've got a big game on Thursday against Louisville. We'll preview that one on Wednesday evening. Tomorrow night, the Ohio State men, now sixth in the country, travel to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to take on the seventh-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, when the season started, when the schedule came out for Ohio State's men's basketball team, the undefeated Ohio State men's basketball team, the three games that happened before January, I was really going to keep an eye on. The game against Villanova, this one against North Carolina, and the one coming up against Kentucky that's being played, I believe, out in Las Vegas, where that game will be. I thought Ohio State had to win at least one of the three. And they had to be competitive in all three, but win at least one of the three. 0-3 would be a bad thing. 2-1 or 3-0 would be outstanding. But at least 1-2, that was like the bare minimum to see out of this Buckeye team. Well, they routed Villanova. That game wasn't even close. And now, North Carolina, Ohio State enters as a higher-ranked team. Chapel Hill is no joke, though. Ohio State's first road game of the season. They've been undefeated right now, but they've played every game at home. So this will be a real test for this team. And although they certainly have the veterans with the Wesson boys and guys like Young on this team, they're still a relatively young team. So it'll be interesting to see how the Buckeyes prepare, how they show up for this game in a hostile environment in Chapel Hill against North Carolina. The Tar Heels, they're not at full strength. The Tar Heels have had a lot of injuries in the preseason and still have some guys that are dinged up. What's interesting, though, about North Carolina is they're led by their freshman guard, Kobe White, who's a one-and-done kind of player. And I want to see how he matches up with DJ Carton. Now, Carton for Ohio State, we know the super freshman guys, he comes off the bench. So I don't expect him to start tomorrow night, or start, I should say, on Wednesday against North Carolina, but there will be times when both of them are on the floor. And I think that's a real challenge for DJ Carton to see how he can compare with Kobe White. Kobe White's a hell of a talent, and it'll be a good match with a couple of freshman guards when they're on the court together. I hope they spend a lot of time guarding each other. We'll see if that actually happens. Ohio State's got some depth. I've talked about this before at the guard position, so I don't know how much you'll see Carton on White, but hopefully we'll get to see some of that, though. Anyway, this game is going to be a lower scoring game. Both of these teams hold the ball a lot. You're not going to see this game, probably both teams will be in the 60s, I would think, on the high end. Ohio State has been so strong defensively so far, but this will be a real test for them. Now, they've been strong defensively, but they haven't really played anybody except for, say, Villanova and Cincinnati. The other matchups for Ohio State, the Buckeyes have clearly had the most talent on the floor. This will be the first time that Ohio State actually will be playing against, I think, a comparable team. This is no disrespect meant to Cincinnati or Villanova. Cincinnati's a tough game regardless if it was played in Columbus. Villanova, probably a little overhyped coming into the season. And again, it was a home game for Ohio State. So seeing how Ohio State can play defensively in the environment they're going to face in Chapel Hill, that's what I'm looking forward to watching. And we'll get a better gauge of where Ohio State's at. Now, if they lose this game, it's obviously not the end of the world, because the Buckeyes still have, that'd be their first loss of the season. They'll have plenty of opportunities to get quality wins, especially in the Big Ten, plus not to mention the Kentucky game coming up. And then also West Virginia is on the docket as well before you get into the meat of the Big Ten conference play. For Ohio State, the keys are going to be how they can control Kobe White. Kobe White is the main cog on this team, the main healthy cog on this team. If they can contain Kobe White, then the Buckeyes should win the game. I think Ohio State's got the depth at guard to do that. I've talked before about Ohio State, how I think they've got enough depth at the guard position to play a team like Michigan State with Cassius Winston. And you can play with reckless abandon because you've got so much depth at the guard position with the Buckeyes that if a guy gets a couple of fouls early, it's not the worst thing in the world. You've got reinforcements you can bring in. In past years, Ohio State, if they lost a guard, a key ball handler early in the game, it could have meant death for the Buckeye team in that game. Not the case this year. So that's going to be the main key for Ohio State, containing Kobe White. He's a dynamic talent, fantastic scorer, and handles the ball well, and it does a great job of seeing more. So if they can lock him down, though, if they can keep Kobe White, and Ohio State's done a good job of that this year. They've done a great job this year, actually, of locking down the leading scorers for other teams. I think leading scorers from other teams coming in are averaging like 10 points a game when they play Ohio State. Again, they haven't had to play Kobe White yet. Kobe White is a different talent. But if the Buckeyes can still, if they can force him to make a couple of turnovers early on, if they can, pressure him enough to where he can't take over the game. Ohio State should win this. The other key will be a couple of guys that have to stay out of foul trouble: Caleb Wesson and Kyle Young. Kyle Young is so important to this team because he brings an energy to the team. He's a guy who gets, despite he doesn't have, not a big guy, he's not huge, I should say. He's a big guy, but he's not huge, but he still gets a lot of rebounds for a guy his size. Caleb Wesson needs to continue to do what he's doing. I've been so impressed with Wesson and with the weight loss he's had, how good he looks out there, his shooting touch. He's shooting from 3 points, three-point land very comfortably. I love what I'm seeing in him. You need Wesson and Young, though, to stay out of foul trouble. They should be able to do that against North Carolina. Ohio State, when they have the rebounding edge, when they're able to do that, they've had a lot of success as well. Those are the two keys. Ohio State's got to keep Wesson and Young out of foul trouble, and they've got to be able to contain Kobe White for North Carolina. The Buckeyes haven't had a lot of success against North Carolina through the years. That's that right there, by the way. When people say those things like, oh, the Buckeyes have only won like 2 of 14 meetings lifetime, doesn't mean a lot. Ohio State, this team is different than the teams that may have played and lost to North Carolina in the past. But even though North Carolina is dinged up, even though North Carolina is not at 100%, even though North Carolina is ranked, granted, one spot lower, but lower than Ohio State, it's still North Carolina. It's still a team coached by Roy Williams. It's a team that still has a lot of talent. So an Ohio State win would do wonders for their chance, for where they're going to be seated in the NCAA tournament come March. Now, I've seen a couple of different projections. Andy Katz has done one. Joe Lunardi, the bracketologist, great job name, by the way, for ESPN. They both got Ohio State on the 2 line right now when it comes to the NCAA tournament. If Ohio State, I said this when the season started, if they hit up 3, that'd be great. 5 would be a bit of a disappointment. But a 2 right now is an undefeated team, moved into the top 10. Has been an incredible start so far. It's the highest a Chris Holtmann team has ever been ranked. Chris Holtmann's never had a team ranked as high as 6 in the AP poll. That's a major accomplishment right there. The Buckeyes' next few games, you've got this one with North Carolina. You've got a conference game with Penn State coming up. Penn State's had some good wins also. You've got the Kentucky game on the horizon as well. There's a lot coming up with Buckeye basketball where we're going to get a chance to really see where this team is headed. The Big Ten in general. Michigan State just got beat by Duke and East Lansing. Louisville beat Michigan. So Michigan, who came into the game ranked 4th in the country, Louisville's number 1. The first loss for Michigan in the Juwan Howard era. It would be important for the conference for Ohio State to get this win against North Carolina after the way Michigan State and Michigan already went down in their Big Ten ACC games. Michigan State's been a disappointment so far, which leads you to believe even more that Ohio State's got a real chance to make a lot of noise this year in the Big Ten and be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the conference this year, especially if they keep playing at this level they're at. Defensively, if they can keep it up, Ohio State's got a chance to really end up being that number 2 seed like Lunardi and Andy Katz have put them in. By the way, if you've Keita Bates-Diop, who I loved when he played for Ohio State, tremendous talent, now in the NBA for the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you haven't watched him lately, his last 4 games, he was invisible last year for the Timberwolves. In the start of this year in the NBA, really he wasn't getting much time either. But over the last 4 games, he's averaging a little over 15 points a game for the Timberwolves, playing close to 30 minutes a game as they put him into the rotation very heavily, and he's putting up great numbers. So keep an eye on that as well. That's an aside as far as Buckeye fans go. But Keita Bates-Diop, though, playing for Minnesota, if you're a Buckeye fan, you want to keep tabs on him as well. It's interesting to watch some of these former Buckeyes like him and like what Mike Conley's been able to do, what Evan Turner's been able to do, and see how well they performed at this next level in the NBA. But Keita Bates-Diop is someone who's really been on a surge lately, so watch him playing in Minnesota. As far as my prediction for the game this against North Carolina, like I said, I think both teams will be in the 60s. It's going to be a tough win for Ohio State if they can pull it out. I think the Buckeyes can win. I'll call it like a 67-63 type game is what I see it as. Both teams have been so solid defensively. North Carolina's probably had a bit of a tougher schedule than Ohio State's had at this point. And the fact Ohio State's had, again, virtually, they've had all home games what they've had. North Carolina's had a couple of neutral site games. They've had to tangle with other teams there. But if North Carolina were full strength, they'd probably beat Ohio State, but they're not at full strength. And Ohio State, with the depth they've got, I think that the Buckeyes will end up prevailing in this game by just a few points. It's going to be close, so it's on ESPN. It's a 9, I think it's a 9:30 tip in this one. But a big game for the Buckeyes, and I'll recap it for you after the game on Wednesday night. We'll see where the Buckeyes are at, see if they get the win over the Tar Heels, and then also we'll talk a little about the women's game that's coming up on Thursday. They've got a big one against Louisville. That'll be it's critical for Ohio State to show up in that one. They just split a couple of games in Las Vegas, and after their tremendous performance in their loss against UConn. But that game's coming up on Thursday. I'll preview that tomorrow as well. Continue to follow, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it if you would. hoopsonlane@gmail.com if you'd like to reach out to me. Would love to hear from you. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, all that. So we'll check out the Buckeye game tomorrow night. I'll be watching it intently and then get you back here with my recap when that ends. And then we'll also talk the women's hoops tomorrow.
Hoops on Lane is a production of Potovox Studios.
Potovox.